Welcome to this video about care activities in relation to promote individual well-being. We have already explored in another video what individual well-being is. And now June and myself will talk about what has to happen to promote individual well-being. Before we start the conversation, don't forget that we have all the videos on the Sky website around this topic and many other resources to support you with the care activities, as well as some handouts that will enable you to embed the learning from today. So, June, let's talk about, according to the Care Act, so as a social care practitioner, I need to start from what the legislation tells me. And the Care Act is clear that my primary duty is to promote individual well-being, and that legal duty applies to all social care interactions and interventions. So this is not only for assessment of needs, but any interaction I have with an individual from the community. Now, it is very difficult sometimes for practitioners, social care practitioners, to get the grasp of what does it mean to promote individual well-being? How do we do this? So, from your point of view as an individual, what does it mean to feel that I am promoting your individual well-being in an interaction with yourself?
I would like to pick up some of the points that were made in the earlier video, and there it was really this. In that video, talked about not good experiences, disregard for me as a person. So now I would want to move on to where I think that positive practice actually comes into being with me. I am an individual. I am quite hesitate to use the word educated, but I'm quite immersed in practice issues around education of students. So some of that is actually, that's who you, if you talk to me, I'm different to somebody else who may not have that experience. So I would actually say, talk to me from a person-centered approach. So that is very much how you have been taught to deliver what you do deliver, your assessment and your service provision. But what does person-centered approach mean? Because it can mean sort of several things. You could be saying, focus entirely on me. I'm the person in front of you. But you could come to that conversation with preconceptions and judgments about whether you're going to be controlling or caring. So control or care can actually, they can both colour your vision. So you may come to me in this person-centered approach. This is June. I'm going to talk to you now about who you are and all those things, or what we need to do for you or provide. But you might come to it from you will come to it from your values and beliefs, and it might be that you have a drive, constant drive to care for me to the extent that you can actually be overprotective. And I think that is seen with some practice, and then with other practice, it can be controlling. So actually, what you're trying to do is to set up barriers almost as to how I can stop being a drain on everything, on your time, on resources. So you want to contain me and control me. So that, to me, even though you're saying you're using a person-centered approach, just examine what that means to you and what it means to the person. Ask the person. Another thing I would want you to do is certainly talk to me about my strengths. I have acquired quite a few strengths in my period of time, and not disassociated from my experiences of the health and social care system. They were connected. They were the driving force as to, well, okay, that happened. How can I help to make this better? And that can be in individual situations, or it can be, as I've been involved in teaching as well, social work students. But basically, look for that nugget, that strength. If you take a holistic approach and you look at the person in terms of housing, employment, leisure, interests, all of those are the whole person, and there are so many aspects and dimensions. There is a model called well, some places called Recovery Star, and in other places it's called, oh, I've forgotten what it's called. We can add it. But basically, look to what the person is doing well, and listen to that voice telling you that this is what I enjoy. I enjoy going to my community hall and knitting with people and having, what we call knit and natter sessions and things like that. That's an enjoyment that's not going to cost services any money. It can
And
be.
and isn't it is really interesting hearing you, June, because so often we social care practitioners mix up what is needs and eligible needs that we need to put into a support plan and ensure we meet with some care and support with your well-being, your identity, your wishes, your way of being, your life, what it's about. I like to think that when I am in any interaction as a social care practitioner, I'm not interacting with a case, I'm not interacting with a problem, I'm interacting with a person, and my interaction is about that person's life. Yeah. So it's not about a process where I do an assessment and I do a support plan and I close a case and no, this is a person and it's a life. And I think that's why the Care Act starts with the individual well-being and starts with well-being in such a broad way of looking at a person, which is definitely holistic, as you're saying, and it's definitely a strengths-based. And it's about before we ever even talk needs, yeah, it's about who are you, June, yeah, what does life mean for you, what's important for you, what do you enjoy, what are you good at, what you don't enjoy, what makes you happy, what makes you tick, it is quite a thing too, and it's exploring all those things. What are your anxieties, what are your worries, so I understand risks from you, not from me. So I put all that picture of who you are, what's your life about, and what you like it to be, is your well-being, is understanding you and what well-being means for you, and that's fundamental. A start point for any interaction or intervention, isn't it? So how do you think practitioners could do so? For example, do you see a connection between your identity and discrimination and oppression and risk and anxieties? How do you see that?
I see there's a very strong connection. I think that the system it replicates the systems that existed when I was going through experiences coming to this country. That whole thing of power and control that was there is now very. If I get too close to to the services, ultimately it does seem to be about control rather than care. And I think that is reminds me of the time when I was being controlled through my experiences. Now I actually lived through the colonial system, and I was what's the word? It's like fated in the sense of I was celebrated as being someone on the higher echelons of it, and I was not happy because actually I could see so much stuff happening around me in the country that wasn't right. And I was only young when we came over, but I brought that with me, that burning desire to fight social injustice. And all I'm saying is that actually then I was at the end of the social injustice when once I came 2,000 miles to this country, I was suddenly the recipient of this social injustice. So actually, I think that identity, it was burned into me and was then further enforced. So probably my first 20 years was was experiencing all that. And I just think that it's if somebody, yes, if this is recognized, and I do now use it as a platform talking about me and talking about other people, that the need to form relationship, that's the other dimension. So we've talked about person-centered, we've talked about look at me from my strengths. You don't know that I'm actually quite creative in the drama field, so I act, I sing, I dance. You don't know that because you don't ask it, you know. And so actually for me, that's about what makes me tick. Now, unless you form a relationship with me, relationship-based social work practice, you won't find that that's really important. So you'll probably go down the route of something completely different. So form that relationship, understand me. When I have been educating students, I have said, I've been quite so rebellious in a sense, or radical. I said, put your paper down, put your pen down, and listen. That's what you first need to do. Yes, you've got forms to fill in, and yes, you need to make notes, but explain to the person that you want them to tell you what will promote their well-being, not your judgments.
Thank you very much, June. That was very insightful, and I hope it makes clear, one, for practitioners, that when we talk about individual well-being, we're not talking about care and support, we're not talking about eligibility, we're not talking about assessment, we're talking about people, we're talking about lives. We're gonna do another video where we're gonna explore together what does it look like when individual well-being is promoted, and what are the outcomes for that. So thank you very much, and everybody, and remember, we got some more resources on the Sky website, and you got handouts to support your learning and embedding the learning from here.